Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are trading in our DualSense for a DualShock 2 and then kind of taking the DualSense back because we need it for this video because we're talking about PS2 games on the PlayStation 5. This video has me fired up. It reminds me of the time we sat down to test out Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on Nintendo Switch. It was one of my favorite videos we've ever made here, and we're doing that here with the PS2 games being added to the PlayStation 5 library. And this is significant because they're not just meager ports, but rather PlayStation has answered the bell on a demand fans have had for years, which is if you're gonna bring back these classics, add trophies to them. And so they've done that. We're taking a look at 3 PS2 games today in Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. We're also looking at Tomb Raider Legend, and lastly is Star Wars The Clone Wars. However, it's not just stopping here. Soon they're adding Daxter to the PlayStation Plus library, and yes, Daxter is going to have trophy support, which kid me is losing his mind over. I remember getting my PSP for one of my birthdays over the summer, and the first game I played on it was Daxter. I love Daxter. Not only that, but in a strange twist of fate, they're also bringing Lego Star Wars 2, specifically the PSP version, over, and that is getting trophy support. For me, this is really exciting because this is where I played Lego Star Wars 2. I played the first one on my Game Boy Advance and the second one on PSP, so it's just crazy that this version is coming over. And the best part is that retroactively, older titles are getting trophy support added to them. Abe's Exodus is getting trophy support. Toy Story 2 on PS1 is getting trophy support, as well as Toy Story 3 on PSP. Yes, it's not my beloved PS3 and 360 version, but fret not. Hopefully PlayStation is cooking and they're adding some back compat support for PS3, because if they do that, oh, it's over. This is something I've been begging Xbox to do. They have an absolutely fantastic backwards compatible system up and running, and I would love nothing more than for them to add achievements to these older Xbox games. I love that PlayStation figured this out. It makes me very excited for classics that are coming up, particularly in the trophy hunting department, because it adds a new layer to the games I already loved growing up, and especially because these aren't just lazy throwaway trophy lists. I love, in particular, that Sly 1 has a brand new trophy list compared to that of the one that came with the Sly collection. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it all, including breaking down the features that these emulated PS2 games arrive with and see if it's worth your $1. The prices will vary depending on where you purchase, but nonetheless, very excited for this. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Let's start off with Maddie's favorite, Sly 1. Now keep in mind that all these are included in the PlayStation Plus premium tier, so if you subscribe there, you'll have access to all of these in your library already. Otherwise, as I mentioned, prices may vary. With Sly 1, this is going for $10 standalone. What you'll note right away, it's in a 4:3 aspect ratio. I'm not going to do too much heavy video editing here so you can see the game in its most natural state and what you're going to be picking up. For those who have never played Sly Cooper before, this game is absolutely incredible, as is the entirety of the series, in my humble opinion. We actually did an extremely, almost unnecessarily big deep dive on Sly 1 here on Retro Rebound that you can check out for me to get into the nitty-gritty of its story and its gameplay. For those who already have the Sly collection and got the trophies, you know that this is a very easy platinum trophy. And so I'm very happy to say that the new platinum trophy here for Sly 1 is much more difficult, including trying to tackle the time trials in Sly 1, which is way more difficult than anything the original game asked you to do. Why is that? Because the original platinum trophy run would have you doing things like getting coins, getting an unlock for all the clue bottles in a level. So yeah, it was really simplistic. This is much more of a deep cut, much more challenging, and for me, as someone who loves these games, it just adds a new layer and a new way to play. What does this offer you, though, if you already have experienced Sly 1 and you don't care about trophy support, as I attempt to at least remain somewhat objective in this video? So the feature set. What this arrives with is a rewind feature. So let's say you mess up, you can bump back a couple of frames. And this worked out really well when I was playing Star Wars The Clone Wars. There was a point where I messed up, I hit a droid that did a ton of damage to me, and I ended up dying later in the level. And I was ready to reload and go ahead at it again. And then I realized all these minutes later, oh wait, I can just rewind back to where I was and just not make that mistake again. And it has a pretty good memory because I went far back. I had way further I could have gone to almost the beginning of that entire mission, which was about close to 20 minutes of gameplay, which I thought was really impressive there because that can add a layer. And for many people who struggle with these games, it can allow you to undo mistakes or, oh, I didn't see that there. Let me do it right this time. And in particular for like the Sly 1 challenges, it's not like this is going to disable your trophies. So you can just go ahead, rewind, and try to get things right because you made a little mistake that maybe cut some time off the clock. So yes, this is a really good feature in my opinion. I know Nintendo Switch Online already had it, but this does a lot for me personally. They also added things like save states. So this allows you just to save anywhere at any time and load it back up. So you don't have to worry about the actual in-game saves. This saves separately and you can load it in whenever, wherever. Again, with trophy hunting, this is something that can probably very easily be abused if you need to make like choice-based trophies or anything like that, where you can just reload old save states, make different choices, and have your way there. There are control and button changes. This may not seem like a big deal, but this went a ways with me for camera control. In particular, Sly 1, I don't like how if I rotate my analog stick to the right, it rotates to the left. It feels backwards. So I actually flipped how the analog sticks function in the controls menu, and it played a lot better for me. I love having that customizability, so I think it'll go a ways with some people where you can set up your controller however you want and change how certain games play. Games like Star Wars The Clone Wars, where characters' movements and where they're facing is tied to the left analog stick, unfortunately can't really be saved by this feature, but there are games that I think will be, and again, it'll go a long way depending on how you utilize it. So I know it's not a feature that's not going to light everyone's world on fire, and sometimes it can be a pain in the butt to set all of these up, but personally, I will just say, I really found this useful. Now, I do think there's a lacking of going the extra mile here that I'm about to get into, but it does start with the controller support. I think it would be really cool if these emulated PS2 games arrived with presets, and I'm talking presets specific to the game. Like, this is the Sly 1 platformer modern control scheme, and this is what you use here. I think a little bit of the community controller layouts that Steam has. I think, again, that would be fantastic to see in these games. Like, what's the best way the community is using this controller to play these PS2 classics? There's also visual presets, so this allows you to do classic or modern or an arcade look, and I'm going to be honest, this stinks. Not a fan of it at all. All one shot does is add a little bit of contrast. The other keeps it kind of plain. The other lays a little grid over the screen. I don't think this does anything for you really at all, and you will most likely keep it on default. And when you see games like Sly 1 emulated, or even Sly 1 on the PS3 collection, even on Vita, it definitely feels a far cry away from where it could be. At the same time, you're paying $10 or it's part of the subscription service, so you kind of get what you pay for here, and it may make the process simpler of just bringing these old games over and letting them be playable in their very much original state. Make no mistake that on a visual front, PlayStation is being outdone on their own platform. I personally wouldn't hate if they went a little bit further with things, but maybe this allows them to keep the cadence up, because all of a sudden it feels like we're getting a flurry of classic games with trophy support, and for me, that, I'll be honest, that speaks my language a little bit more. They do have an enhancements tab that I was messing around with across multiple games, turning it on and off, and I don't know if it was my brain playing tricks on me. The only thing I might be seeing here is it could be a frame rate thing, because you don't see much of a difference in image quality on screen. I'll get into what I think I'm seeing here, but I noticed that maybe when the camera is rotating, some of the hiccups go away a little bit, because remember, this is running as the base PS2 game. As I'll talk about with Star Wars The Clone Wars in a little bit, you'll notice that the game kind of skips a little bit in its opening cutscene, just like the version on your original Xbox or your PS2 would. So it's very true to form in that way, and that could present a series of problems, because now you have that kind of concern of, well, I might get my favorite game from the PS2 or PSP library, but PlayStation may not do a fantastic job porting it over, and it may just be, it is what it is, and so my favorite game may have a cool trophy list, but these enhancements do nothing for me. So there are some games that skip around a little bit. Yes, we'll get into how Tomb Raider Legend looks. I've already seen this scuttlebutt online, but just keep in mind that these enhancements may tackle frame rate a little bit, but if I saw anything visually, it was almost the smoothing of the images, some textures being smoothed over ever so slightly, giving the image a little bit of an easier on the eyes look. But it was really hard to tell. So again, I don't know if this is me just trying to manifest or if this is actually what's happening. But I think the problem is if I can't tell, if it's not passing the eye test, then the effort level wasn't very high in this particular department. I don't know why an enhancements tab exists much. So Sly 1, for me, it falls kind of in the middle. If you just want another reason to platinum this game, hey, this is a great excuse to go out there and do it. I already have the platinum on Vita. I have the platinum on PS3. Hey, why not get it on PS5? This is an exciting way for me to spend 10, 12 hours with some of my favorite characters in gaming once more. With Tomb Raider Legend, this is a weird one. Not only does this game look the worst out of the three we got, it's also the one that has a 360 and PS3 version. So it's kind of strange to me that this one's even kicking around at all. And worse yet, it is the most expensive one at $20. Tomb Raider Legend arrives in 480p. And the image quality, at times, I think the online scuttlebutt's blowing it up a little bit too much. But other times, yeah, it's very blurry, it's very stretched out, and it doesn't adapt well to modern TVs. That's the benefit of what Sly's doing. Many of us will want widescreen support, but when you stretch it out, the image quality goes down tremendously. And so you see that really clearly here with Tomb Raider Legend. But again, it goes to the catch-all. I don't know what version I'm going to get from PlayStation with these ports. You have a 4x3, you have an awful looking image here, and then you have a really good, clean looking image in Star Wars The Clone Wars, which is widescreen. So I really don't know what I'm going to get here. And the price doesn't tell me that either. While Tomb Raider is the most expensive, it's absolutely the worst out of the bunch. But then Star Wars The Clone Wars looks the best out of the bunch, and it's $5. So I don't really understand how these are being priced out, what amount of labor is being put into them. But Tomb Raider Legend is definitely the odd one out here. Now, as someone who's not played really any Tomb Raider at all outside of the reboot series starting in 2012, I think it was, I like the new Tomb Raider games, but I haven't played much of the old ones. Oh, this game is awesome from what I played. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Again, I know nothing about old Tomb Raider. I don't know if this is where Lara Croft lost her way. I hear a lot about that online, so I don't know when she was hot and when she's not. But I really like the reboot trilogy. I love the style in this game of like the way she climbs even onto ledges. Like she'll just do a handstand. Why not, right? And you can also see clearly, as it's already been documented, how much inspiration this game has given others in the industry. The way the 3D platforming works, the Uncharted vibe here. You can see how much it's done for this industry, how much it's influenced many of the most popular games on the planet. So yeah, Tomb Raider Legend, cooler game than I imagined, but like honestly, I might just go pick this one up on PS3 or 360 and call it a day, because this one isn't worth it, and I would say this is the one you avoid here. And then last but not least, you have Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is hilarious because this was the first one to leak, and many people were kind of confused how or why this is coming back. And I agree, the selection here has been kind of strange from PlayStation. Sly makes sense, but to get a movie tie-in game to Attack of the Clones, and even more strange is the fact that we just did a big retrospective, like a very heartfelt retrospective on this game about a month ago, just talking about it because we just watched Attack of the Clones on Retro Rewind. It was incredible timing there. This is a vehicle-focused Star Wars game, and I will say that it's a bit of a hidden gem. It's very cool to see how Star Wars Battlefront really began with Pandemic, taking a lot of these ideas and evolving them further into Battlefront 1 and then 2. But with the new control changes, it doesn't really save some of my complaints I had with the original Star Wars The Clone Wars when I played it on my Xbox Series X via backcompat. The image quality here is fantastic. It's widescreen. It's definitely the best looking one. And it's probably, when it comes to like no nostalgia bias, my favorite trophy list of the group. It's got a bunch of ones involving completing different challenges in the game, but also just completing each mission in the story. So it looks like a fun platinum to tackle, and it also involves getting bonus objectives done, and these bonus objectives are worthwhile to tackle because that's how you unlock the Academy mode I talk so much about. So final thoughts, what do we have here? We have the entire spectrum of backwards compatibility. We have a great, good, and pretty poor example all before us in a trifecta, as if PlayStation's laying out, here is the range of quality you're going to get, and it's anybody's guess what that is. I'm excited to learn more on the PSP front, because I am very keen to check out Daxter when it lands next week on June 18th, and no doubt we'll be back again here to take a look at those games and analyze how PSP is doing, especially with its trophy library. But to me, all I think PlayStation needs now is a more native handheld, and these games are going to find a home real quick for many. But the reality is, you've heard me to the point of nauseum talk about how trophies are here. If you don't care about trophies, I think some of this is a tough sell. If you're looking at it from a quality standpoint, it definitely is on the lower rung of the ladder. I think there's more that could be done here. At the same time, though, when you're charging me $5-10, I'm really not going to twist your arm too much about it. I think those are fair prices. When you go to Tomb Raider's level of 20, if that's the top of what we can charge, I am expecting more. This should look better than most games. This should play better than most games. It should come with something more than just the trophy list and the added back compat features. Like, there should be an added level of quality here, because it's not really leveling out to me why one is more expensive than the other. Either level the playing field and they're all $10, or make it clear when you're going to spend more, you're going to get a little bit better back. But for games like Sly 1 and Clone Wars, they passed the test as good enough. And for trophy hunters, I know y'all are going to be all over this, because I'm not even a massive trophy hunter anymore, but they do sometimes compel me to pick up products, just like the Xbox did with achievements. And I want Xbox to take this note here from PlayStation and bring some back compat achievements to their own back compat library beyond the 360, because I think it would be so cool to pull off. I also wonder, with this new emulated system that PlayStation has here, if we're going to get re-releases on a physical level of some of these games through, say, limited run games. Will they be able to take Sly 1 and put them on a PS5 disc and kind of immortalize a new version of Sly Cooper? That is an incredible thought. I don't know if it's possible, but I really hope it's something they can pull off. So there's a lot of potential here. I love that games from the past are coming forward and being preserved. And I love that as they're being preserved, we're getting some of the modern boons of how gaming's evolved. In control changes, the visual presets are a letdown, the enhancements are a letdown. I love the save states, I love the rewind feature, and I absolutely adore the trophy support. Because while I'm not so into the modern trophies, I love the idea of adding a new layer to some classic games in my library and checking those out with a new perspective. So for me, very pumped about this, and I would love to get these games on a new handheld beyond the PlayStation Portal, because as I said, I think they would really find a home there. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've got for you here for this episode of Retro Rebound. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on PS2 games, on PS5, and we'll be back next week to talk about the PSP games. Until then, take great care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.